Hello, Nick. Hello, Nick, are you there? Hello, Nick.
Hey, how you going?
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I was away from the screen there for a minute.
Oh, no worries. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, busy as, but good.
Hey, so I spoke to Vanda Stewart today, who is the interpretation, doing the signage for parks. And she's going to send through some of the mocked up images of some of their statues and artworks that they use for the Creek to Creek program. And she will send through her contact details for a supplier as well. Can you hear me? Oh, you must have dropped out. Can you hear me? Hello, Nick. Oh. Can you hear me now, Nick? Can you hear me now?
Test that one. How's that speaker? How's that speaker? Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear you, Nick.
Okay. So I think we have it working again.
What did you do?
I changed microphone.
All right.
Yeah, I have lots of, IT stuff. So
Yeah, you're the IT person.
yeah, but it just jumps the moment you turn your back on it. It just
I
changes.
know.
Yeah.
All right. Joining in and logging onto Zoom at our most amazing time of day. I realised this morning that we had booked in for 6 until 7, and I thought that's my favourite time of day for sunset. What have I done? Hi, Kathy.
Well, there was a number of
So yeah, thanks again, everyone, for joining in.
joint replacements, so it's
And firstly, thank you to the Solomon Electorate, who has provided some funding for our project, which is through the Community Environments Program. And it's a funding
some other guy.
grant that we were able to get some money for. And that's why BirdLife Top End, along with the Planning Action Network NT, came up with this project on the community care of migratory shorebirds in Casuarina.
Patient selection, so we're not doing procedure.
Did Amanda get into, or did that guy Andy get in touch with Amanda? Or?
Somebody else is trying to get in, I think.
Did the connection stay then?
There was a pause.
Okay, that's okay. I thought so. It's just expiring. There it is. Okay, so there is a housing estate that is planned to go ahead along that Lee Point Road. And so what we want to do is, alongside any of that new housing development, is to ensure that there's minimal impact on the shorebird population at the Sandy Creek area and at Lee Point. And so what we would like to do is simply to improve the current knowledge and awareness of shorebirds for anybody that uses those areas. And why it's an issue is because a lot of people and people with their dogs are walking on these beaches, and it's an ongoing issue with dogs and humans disturbing the birds. So that's kind of like the main impact. And what we're hoping to do is maybe do an art installation, a permanent art installation on these beaches. But before I go into the detail of that, we do want to hear from everybody here, or people that aren't here but maybe can send emails to us, to hear about how they might like to be involved generally with the project. So the project will go for all of this year, and we'll wrap it up by the end of the year. So we're also going to think about the best management of the shorebirds in that coastal reserve area, and then wider beyond the coastal reserve, and then also just protect those values that we kind of understand already, and maybe we learn of some new values in the coastal reserve specifically for these shorebirds. So I guess that's kind of the main aims of the project. We've got quite a lot of stakeholders that we've identified, because there's so many people that have an interest in the Casuarina Coastal Reserve. So we want to be able to work alongside as many of those as possible, but also continue protecting the birds and the coastal environment. So I do have a list of those. I won't go through them. Oh, sorry, Nick, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay,
Hello,
cool. Yeah, I
everybody.
saw your message. Sorry.
No, that's all good. No, that was old. It was an old message.
Oh, okay. So I can send out the list of stakeholders, and people are very welcome to add to that list. But what I really want to hear from is any ideas that you guys might have of how we can improve the engagement of the general community that use the Coastal Reserve, and how we can maybe get some improve the value and raise the awareness of these shorebirds in the local community. So feel free to either send a message on the chat or unmute your microphone and just talk, chat generally with all of us here, or you can send an email as well.
Sorry, I'm new to Darwin, so I've only been to the reserve a few times, but I love it. What about signage? Has there been much work done on signage?
Yeah, so there is quite a lot of signage in the Coastal Reserve all about the shorebirds, and there's lots of different types of signs. There's some standard kind of regulatory signs, and then there's interpretive artwork. There's permanent woven statues of shorebirds that are like 1 metre high, and they're on the grassy area before you get onto the beach. So our initial idea that we've put forward to Parks and Wildlife was to install some bollards on the beach. But actually we're not able to do that. So what they've come back and suggested is these silhouette statues of shorebirds, and we will put those actually on the beach so that people walking on the beach can see them. So that's kind of where the general concept is at, and we hope to be able to put some at Lee Point and some at Sandy Creek.
Oh, hi, it's Ian and Gail here. What was the reason you couldn't put bollards on the beach?
They're very expensive.
And then
They've got lots of them.
So, yeah, they require a lot of money and engineering and planning. And so one day we hope to be able to have the funds for that. But until then, I think we just keep on going, engaging with the community.
Okay, so I've got lots of them that they could shift. Anyway, okay, thank you for the reason. Doesn't seem a good reason.
Yeah, yeah, apparently, in the hundreds or $100,000 or so. So quite a lot of money. But it looks like, yeah, some ongoing engagement just with your comment in the comment box, Christy, and improving the current signs so that signs that have fallen over are stood back up. So that's kind of where we're at. But what we really want is for the community to come on board and take more ownership of these sites and the care of the birds. So that connection with the birds.
One thing, like we go down there reasonably regularly, maybe once a week down to Casuarina Coastal Reserve, more Sandy Creek area and that. And the signage is a little, it's sort of inconsistent. In one way, it's sort of saying dogs on leashes on some parts of it. And then the main signs say, no, dogs under control. It doesn't, and most of the, my wife just spoke to Parks and Wildlife last week because, we got hassled by a dog, and most of the dogs aren't on leashes. Where they should be. So that's not just on the beach, that's in the park itself. So the dog management issue in Casuarina Coastal Reserve generally is not being well managed, I suppose. And we have written to parks, both of us, a couple of occasions, and the response is lack of resources for management. And lately, you know, I think late last year, we wrote to the minister, and they sort of said they'd get back to us, but nothing's happened as yet. So we haven't had a lot of response from people out there. Yeah, it's not really seemed to be going anywhere.
Yep.
That's where we're at, anyway.
Yeah, and so I totally agree with you that the regulations are a bit confusing, especially at Lee Point, because you've got one side of Lee Point which is okay to walk your dogs, and the other side, the eastern side, it's not okay. But that whole section of the beach is called Lee Point, so it can be really confusing. So that, I guess, comes down to the name of the actual site itself.
I think one thing with the signage which would help is, and I think that's they do it at Night Cliff, where they actually sort of tell you why, you know, the feeding areas and the bird areas are important, but there doesn't seem to be that signage at Lee Point or certainly at Sandy Creek around there, why the shorebirds need these areas, and you know, so I think there could be some more work done with the signage, why these particular feeding areas are important to shorebirds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So on this silhouette statues, we'll probably include some of that educational material. So I think we'll have to include some of that information that you've just suggested there.
Okay, oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Just read
yeah.
comments.
I don't know. Is it just while we've this sort of dogs under control and all the rest doesn't work down at Sandy Creek, I'd have to say. The dogs chase birds, and there are even a couple of horses down there last week, but you know, it's not really working. So I don't know whether there's any consideration they should try and rezone some of the areas which are more important to the shorebirds, which is near Sandy Creek, because I don't think it really, it just doesn't work. It's just, you know, yeah.
Yeah, they don't stay within their designated zones, do they?
Sorry, say that again?
The birds don't stay in their designated zones.
Can I just
No, I
ask?
see that, but I mean, there are, they might shift over time, that's true. But they've been pretty consistent over the last few years.
They are, yeah. Sorry, Monica?
So is the main problem dogs, and what is the main way that as an ordinary citizen we can help the birds? Like, is there, you know, like I think Gillian mentioned a citizen science or monitoring project. I'm just wondering, like, is the best thing for us to do just stay away from the birds? Because that's obviously not like really easy to sell. It'd be easier to sell.
Yep.
Yeah. Like actually be able to somehow like participate and engage in a positive way, besides just like staying away from the birds, especially when we have dogs.
Yeah, so people can get involved, and Gavin, who is in this chat, he coordinates the monthly shorebird monitoring program that we run through BirdLife Top End, and people are welcome to come along to that and learn about the birds and be involved. And it would actually be great if we had more people and they became site stewards. So then they had that site ownership, and then they tell their friend or their family or their school or workplace about the stuff that they're doing, and then it's just kind of like flow-on effect. It's a bit of a small kind of birdie circle at the moment where we just have those same people coming to the shorebird monitoring, but it's always open for everyone. So that is a citizen science project because the data goes to a national database run by BirdLife Australia. So yeah, everybody is welcome to come along to that. But you're right, the best thing for the birds is for us to give them space.
I mean, I think I would love to take part in that, in what you just said. And, you know, I love birds and I've only been here for a few months and I didn't really know about that. So probably some work could be done on just promoting that and, you know, even on social media and doing some work around there and even fundraising in order to, you know, do an ad on Facebook and, yeah, like I would definitely like to participate in that. And I guess the other thing I wanted to know is there any school program? Are you doing any school outreach?
We are not currently, but in our BirdLife Top End group, we want to start up a program called Birds in Schools. And there already is a template by BirdLife Australia with all of the resources. We just don't have anybody to drive that at the moment. So if you happen to know anyone that has connections with schools or is willing to drive a program through BirdLife Top End, then they're very welcome to it and we can get them all the resources they need. We've had a little bit of involvement with scout groups over the years and some schools, but it's been sporadic and it hasn't been an ongoing working relationship.
The colours.
Clearly I have to join BirdLife Top End, so
Yes.
I'll make sure I do that.
Can I just jump in quickly to add to what Monica was saying? Because I feel a bit like Monica, like I really like birds, but I don't really know how I can get involved, for example, with the reserve. Like I go there multiple times a week at the moment. But I think, yeah, combined the signage plus, yeah, having some greater promotion to get residents groups involved would be really good. I was in South Australia last year and I just really noticed the hooded plover program they seem to have down there. And there are different beaches. There just seem to be lots of really good signage right at the little walkways onto the beach that explain like the values and why we need to protect them, and then also had really personal signs about the local residents group that was helping that particular and that kind of thing. And it gave me a real sense that people had sort of taken some ownership over it because it was very localized. And I wonder if something like that would work. You know, the same kind of ideas would be good here, I imagine.
Yeah, just sort of on that point, I think it is a really big jump for people. It's not only people who are new to birds, but even just don't necessarily engage in this space normally to kind of go straight to those regular monitoring counts. Like, I feel like that's a really big space between those two things. And the Wader Study Group in Brisbane, one of the things they do is they have these like 4 times a year, maybe, these Wader ID days. That's really like just a very basic intro to shorebird stuff. I don't know if there's capacity to start up something like that here, even if we just started it like twice a year or something. But I feel like it is a big gap between like kind of formal monitoring and no involvement with shorebirds. And I feel like that's the kind of tricky space in between.
Yeah, so we had some shorebird workshops when BirdLife came up last month, and that was great. But other than that, we haven't been running annual identification workshops, but I totally agree with you that we should.
I mean, it can be something that hopefully like wouldn't take that much work. You know, if there's maybe, I don't know, a couple really good tides a month, just take one of them and say, you know, anyone come down to Lee Point from this time to this time. There'll be a few experienced people there with scopes, bring some extra booklets, whatever. Keep it fun, keep it casual, try not to repel people with dogs, but instead bring them over and also have them engaged. I think maybe like with this whole COVID thing going on, everyone is so much more plugged in online. So maybe a key way to do it is to try and figure out, you know, try and organize a few things like that as soon as the restrictions are eased a bit and really push it hard online, because it feels like everyone's even more plugged in than usual right now. I don't know.
Kathy, I wanted to know what's your experience with engaging and raising awareness using artwork for science or for conservation issues?
I really only have that experience through being involved in the overwintering program that is being organised. But I did go to a shorebird workshop. I'm down in Sydney at the moment, and I did go to a shorebird workshop in Sydney, and there was a presentation on people that were doing that citizen stewardship stuff, and that seemed to be really successful. People seemed to embrace that, and it seemed to work really well. So in terms of artwork, I don't really have any special experience, but I could think more about it. I mean, definitely, in terms of options. One thing I did notice about the signage at Lee Point is that somebody actually kicked a hole through the sign, which I didn't think was a positive sign of how people were responding to the signage.
That was a few months ago. Kathy hasn't been up here for a while.
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Okay, and let me just catch up with the comments, and if anybody else wants to add anything.
Just
No,
who's going?
sorry. My name's Kendall. I'm the Green candidate for Casuarina in the coming election. So I'm just more interested in, like, if you could recap for me what the regulatory situation is with the designated zones, for one thing. Thanks.
Sorry, it did just cut out at the end. The regulatory.
So I was just wondering what the regulatory arrangements are for these designated zones.
So there's designated zones by Parks and Wildlife, and if the rangers are out there and they see people with dogs in no dog areas or off the lead in an on lead area, they will just go and talk to them. It's usually, the education first, and then if it's a repeat offender, then it would be a fine. Last year, November or December, Parks and the City of Darwin ran some increased dog patrols because the public had been complaining about dogs off the lead at Dripstone Beach, and the dogs were running up and disturbing families. So they presented a danger to families. So they started doing patrols all around the coastal reserve, and then this year they ramped it up and did more patrols specifically for the shorebirds. And in March, it was called Operation Knot, which was about the regulation of those dog areas, specifically for great knots and other shorebirds. So then in March, they were giving out fines because they had spent that time in the lead up doing awareness raising and informing people. So that's kind of the extent of what they will do. But it really only happens if the rangers patrol during the specific times that the birds are there. And those times are usually after hours, after normal work hours, sunrise, sunset, during those bigger tides, and on weekends. They don't always have these bird or dog patrols rostered into their schedule. So that's why it's been an ongoing issue, because there just hasn't been, that consistency over the years. And also the transient population of Darwin, and that we'll have to keep informing people about these issues.
Do you know how many rangers they have?
Sorry?
Do you know how many ranges they have for the reserve?
No, I don't know actually. Yeah, we could find out through Parks and Wildlife.
Many of them.
Oh, seems to be that on their cruise. I don't know how many there are, probably about 3. I don't know, I'm making that up.
Yeah, so Kendall, what were your thoughts on that in terms of regulation?
Well, because I'm a candidate for the coming election, I'm interested to know what in the case that I actually got through, what might be able to be done at the parliamentary level to support like the Casuarina Reserve in general, but also that area where the migratory birds are, situated.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's where I'm going at. That's where I'm coming from, and
Yeah, great.
yeah. So I was also interested in the housing, how far up that housing, if there's any more sort of housing estates in line for that area, and also I was interested in with the fires in the reserve, like last year, whether they affect that need for a conservation area for the birds as well. So those are the 3 things that I'm sort of.
Yeah, so at the moment there is the housing development which is on Lee Point Road. So there's the Muirhead, and then behind Lyons there's the 2 Crew development, which I'm really not sure of the timeline, but it has been approved and there's some conditions on that development. Some of those are around shorebirds and protecting the shorebirds, but this project is in addition to that, because we really don't know what's happening with that 2 Crew. We certainly don't need more houses along that area because there's already Breezes and Muirhead, which is still vacant. But yeah, that is the main concern, is that housing boundary encroaching in the coastal reserve, which it will do through 2 Crew, and then potentially who knows what will happen in the future if it continues going towards Lee Point itself.
We think it's 5,000 people are going in on the seaward side of the road out to the tip. There are towers. There's 2 or 3 above 8-story tourist things on the plan. It takes them years to finish, but what they tend to do is punch a big hole and put one house, leave 5 spaces, put another house, leave 5 spaces. So it's a clear fell when it goes down. The blocks are really small, really high density, the same as the end of the airport. In the city, the Narrows, if you've looked in there, that's Cheek and Jail, and that's the same design, which is all very disappointing, really.
So with that sort of urbanisation going on, that's going to put enormous pressure on the buffer zone between the beach and the developments, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So they did have an environmental impact assessment for that 2 Crew development, and that's where the conditions came from. So, you know, they did the work with black-footed tree rat as well, and endangered cycads and any other threatened species that would be in the area.
Lose the buffer zone and you sort of lose the argument, don't you?
Sorry?
Lose the buffer zone and you'll sort of lose your argument when it comes to protecting the shorebirds.
Yeah, well, hopefully that doesn't happen. But I think even if we have an increasing population at that Lee Point area, I think the key is still to be able to engage with them and get them to care and have them have that connection with the birds and with those beaches, so that even the people that live on the doorstep of those birds and beaches care and protect them. So that's really what we want to do with this project. So I think this chat is really good because Misha, as you said before, and also with some of you guys that haven't done very much bird watching, but you'd like to get involved, is how we need those steps to be able to work your way up to being involved in the bird monitoring, and then maybe that will lead to improved community care or more community care of the shorebirds because people just aren't connecting with them. Would that be a good or a fair assumption?
Yes, it's Lou here, Amanda. So
Hello.
I'd be very happy to get more involved. And I haven't done too much with shorebirds, but I am helping with Guy Mura on the KBAs and IBAs, and in fact entering that data into the world database. So I've just checked, of course. So officially, from BirdLife Australia's point of view, that Shoal Bay area is recognised. The top bit of Lee Point's there, but in fact Sandy Creek is not part of that KBA, which of course is then recognised globally. So that's maybe an opportunity for us to review that and revisit that if that Sandy Creek area is important for shorebirds as well. And also I just noticed on the database, there are regular, of course, annual monitoring of those sites and so on, which I think the last one was done is 2008. So it's a good opportunity for us to get that, start doing those regular annual surveys and recording on that, because that has visibility both at BirdLife Australia, and of course they do actually highlight where there are, whether they need to put focus on areas which are really impacted, but also of course it is actually has visibility at the BirdLife worldwide as well. So that's just one thought I had.
That's brilliant. So are we able to extend the boundary of that Shoal Bay KBA?
Well, I'll have to talk to Golo about that. I suppose we'll have to have a bit of science around it, but yeah, I suppose so. I mean, it'd be, at the moment, it's just showing really, I suppose, the area facing towards Tiwi Islands, but the Sandy Creek is certainly not recognised as part of the important bird area, or what is now a key biodiversity area, of course. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really useful tool.
Yeah, and going back to someone's previous comment about getting the community involved, we could get them involved in some of those annual surveys potentially as well.
Mm. Mm. And Lou, have you done any of these KBA health checks in the field?
I haven't. Golo's keen for us to do a few, and of course there's about, I've just looked at the list for NT. That's one of the things we're looking at, is how we can do a lot more in the NT. So a lot of opportunities there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Certainly the islands have
KBA,
just been done, of course, as you know. Golo was over to do that last year. Mm.
So KBA, in case anybody doesn't know, is the key biodiversity area, and that's what Lou is talking about.
Yeah.
So, so does it have kind of international standing?
It has standing, and it's not a legislative backing, of course. These aren't prescribed by government, but they are recognised, and they did give it a bit of gravitas if it is a KBA recognised.
Okay.
At the moment, we'd be going to bat for it's not, that Sandy Creek area is outside that KBA. So I think that maybe is an opportunity for us to extend that, as long as we've got the science to prove that is actually equally as important as that northern edge. Well, there might be some limitations on extending it. We'll have to check that out. I'm happy to have a conversation with Golo and report back on what are the potential steps if we wanted to expand that KBA.
I think that would be great.
Okay, happy to do that.
Mm. Thank you.
All right. And the only other comment I had was having studied with Carla Eisenberg, Dr. Carla Eisenberg. Of course, she's now the science coordinator, and possibly has access to some federal government funding there. And I'm just wondering if, in relation to those programs in the schools, can we sort of, which are going to be sort of more science-based, whether we can get some Carla involved in that as well.
That's a great idea. Yep, overlapping with CDU. So she's
Yeah.
the science outreach coordinator, I think.
Yes, she is now for the territory, but of course that role is funded from federally. So, yeah.
Great. That is a great suggestion.
Mm. So I'm happy to have a chat to Carla, or if you want to have a chat to Carla, of course.
No, please do. That would be amazing. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and what else? What are some other thoughts that have popped into people's heads?
Just Ian and Gail here. You know, like, is there, because the shorebirds aren't here all year, are there sort of things to do, like events you could do during the year, like sort of, you know, like trying to advertise shorebirds now when there's hardly any shorebirds? I'm just thinking about the timing and how you work with the timing. It's a sort of a bit of getting people involved. And
yeah, so the dry season is a great time for planning. So what we're doing now, if we can plan things and get things ready for launching, for when the birds come back. So we're hoping that any art installation that we put into the ground will be ready by September or October for when the bird's back, and then we can launch the art, and that would be a community event in itself. And you know, we try and do things like that every year, either welcoming the shorebirds back or waving them goodbye. So those are kind of you know, pretty common events at shorebird sites all around Australia.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a good, yeah. Sort of.
But are you thinking that we should do more advertising in the dry season, more kind of awareness raising in the dry season in preparation for that?
Yeah, but as you say, a month or so before the shorebirds arrive, it's sort of hard to get, when just before the event, I guess, yeah. I think that's Yep.
And a photography competition, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a great one. So we could do something like that when the birds are here in the season, and then that's getting people out, taking photos of the birds. Great idea. I love it.
Yeah, and I don't know. So I work for the Environment Centre, and we do a lot of stuff with like Seabreeze Festival, and in the normal year, there's like heaps of festivals. So it's really good with those festivals to have some sort of regular thing that you do every year. Yeah, but a photography competition would be really good, especially in lockdown. And, you know, everybody's consuming so much digital content. And it's something like you obviously had a lot of traction with the ABC with, you know, recently. I'm sure they would love a photography competition or something similar.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Or painting competition. Well, yeah, we know a few artists. And there's definitely, so Kathy, you've been involved with those printing exhibitions, and we could do painting as well. So there is lots of great ideas. That's really great.
We've also got plenty of birds and that to chase around in the dry season, and that's when there's a lot of pressure on the bush with bikes, dirt bikes, dogs, and a lot of people walking in that area. Apart from that, you've got other groups in the area like Look After the Moth Block and the Casuarina Care group you can tie up with. There's lots of groups out there anyway.
I'm just reading these messages. It took me a little while to get understand that one. Okay, so any other thoughts or ideas? I mean, we can wrap it up whenever. It's just really great to be able to have an initial chat and essentially just let everyone in the community, or those that are tuned in now, know about the community environment program and this community care program, and then that there will be some activities over the next few months, and we'll be engaging with the Larrakia Rangers to be involved with some art and some of the interpretation on the bird statue, the silhouettes that we'll put onto the beach. And so we'll do that. And I think we've got now a lot of great suggestions on some other ways we can engage with the community to build up that care and to create stronger values for the shorebirds. So is there anything else people want to add? And if you do want to get involved, just straight up, Gavin has posted his email in this chat because he is the one, I'll just copy it and paste it again so it's current, down the bottom. He's the one that is coordinating the monthly shorebird counts. We've actually got a count coming up this Sunday. And we do have counters at all of our shorebird sites. So we've got 5 sites around Darwin where we go and monitor every month. Of course, it's different at the moment because we can't be in large groups. So if you happen to turn up at one of these sites, you just keep your distance like normal, but you can still be involved in counting shorebirds or learning about the shorebirds. So Gavin's...
If you could bring your own, binoculars or your own scope, if you have one, that'd be helpful. We're trying to discourage people sharing scopes and the like while the pandemic's on.
Yeah, that is a good idea. And the other thing is we've got resources. We've got these shorebird identification booklets, and we can give those out to people. And if you know other people that might like them or like a copy, we can always give those out as well. And Nick has just asked, how did you hear about this event, this online Zoom that we're doing? And a couple of people have said from Facebook or email. Anything different to that?
From Amanda.
Or recommended by a friend.
Is that Sunday thing still going on or not? That Sunday thing's not going on, is it? That we haven't heard.
But it sounds like either email or Facebook. So that's really useful as well. A little birdie told me. So I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in during our kind of sunset dinner hour. And if you have any thoughts that come to mind afterwards, or you want to share some information with anyone else, feel free to email me. I can put my email address in this box, so you have it as well. So that's my email address, and send any suggestions or comments to me if you like. And otherwise, I think we'll just keep announcing any of the activities that we're doing over Facebook and over email. But I think that's generally it. And so thank you once again to the Solomon Electorate for funding our project so far. And thank you to all of you people, the community that already care about the shorebirds.
And thank you, Amanda, for putting it together. Excellent.
Oh, no worries. Thanks, Lou. Thanks, Misha.
Yes, well done. Went well, I thought.
Okay, well, thanks everyone. And we shall talk soon.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.